Hello and welcome to day 4 of this process of 50 Days of Compassion for America. It's the morning of November 11th, 2016. To me, my current time here is approximately 8 a.m. I'm in San Diego, California at the International Symposium for Contemplative Studies, so it kicked off last night, so it was very interesting to hear perspectives of those in the field of contemplative studies regarding compassion, society, and suffering, etc. And for me, the highlights of last night, which was kind of the opening keynote events, some of the highlights. The main highlight was definitely a discussion that occurred, a public discussion on stage between Richie Davidson probably the foremost quote-unquote researcher or scientist in the field of contemplative studies, and Mathieu Ricard. And it was a very interesting conversation. And we closed with that session with a short meditation led by Sharon Salzberg. Today we're going to engage in a short meditation, taking the perspective of Tonglen, which is a particular type of meditation which involves a technique that's translated sometimes as sending and receiving. And some of you may be very familiar with this technique, and others maybe not at all, so I'm going to discuss several strategies of working with this process. But first I thought I might talk just for a few minutes about compassion. I think right now many of us are aware of the really enormity of suffering in the world. And I think many of us can see that on our local levels, perhaps in our personal lives, and on various additional levels of community, regional, state, national, global, etc. So the question to me is, well, what good is compassion here? And so it's important to distinguish between what compassion is and what it is not. This isn't the place to do that thoroughly. But we have, many of us, the preconception that compassion entails extreme vulnerability to suffering in a way that will deplete us, drain us, etc. And there are many ways of opening ourselves to suffering. But the particular way we do so with compassion does not deplete us. As Mathieu Ricard said last night, there is no compassion fatigue. And in his book, Altruism, he really distinguishes quite clearly between different types of empathy. And sort of the type that's underlying compassion and how it does not lead to fatigue, but actually leads to resilience and courage. And there's a reason that Thupten Jinpa titled his book on compassion, A Fearless Heart. Fearless. So I think that's very important, that compassion itself may not be what we think it is. And the second assumption that we make mistakenly, I believe, regarding compassion is that it is passive. But ideally, at least, it is very active and engaged and actually increases our ability to actively engage in the world. And there's a quite robust conversation regarding this between, to put labels on people or groups, activists and contemplatives. As activists, we may want to change the world as quickly as we can. And as contemplatives, we may have the tendency to withdraw, meditate, self-reflect, etc. From my perspective, they're both critical. But it's just my perspective, so I encourage you, wherever you are, whoever you are, to really use your own life as a laboratory and see, how does compassion manifest for you? There's definitely a energy to anger. And sometimes that anger is very well-meaning, protecting ourselves, for instance, protecting others, righting wrongs that we see in the world. But perhaps we can get actually addicted to this anger. So a question would be, if we soften this anger a bit, if we have compassion for those, perhaps who we haven't before, is it going to decrease our ability to act for the good? Will it decrease our resolve to be proponents of social change, etc.? I maintain that it won't. But ask yourself that. And Richard Davidson made the point that contemplative research, at least, has been largely focused on individual outcomes, such as, if I meditate, this is how it might be translated to the world. If I meditate, if you meditate, there are particular personal desirable outcomes that result from this, such as decreased stress, increased health benefits, increased performance, etc. But he really gave us the mandate to examine the impact of contemplative practices on the social good. And that's where I think particularly compassion practices are important and need to be explored, because in my understanding of compassion, these practices actually energize us, actually assist us in engaging with the difficulties of the world, while at the same time taking care of ourselves, buffering the impact of all of this on our own psyches. And we will have resistances to some of this, because part of the foundation of this sort of compassion that Mathieu Ricard is talking about is this idea of impartiality, really seeing the commonality in others that we may not have before. I refer to it as softening the edges. Susan Fiske, in her research, talks about different stereotypes and how these really filter our perceptions of others, and in turn influence our reactions and responses to others. And particularly in respect to compassion, these responses differ in terms of our responses to the suffering of others. So in this notion of impartiality, we really toy with what's underneath our compassion. We smooth it out a bit and broaden our compassion. Again, I think of it as softening the edges. And this practice of Tonglen like mindfulness of breathing, uses the breath as the sort of anchor of the meditation practice. And in a nutshell, what we do is imagine breathing in the suffering of ourselves and others, where it naturally meets the goodness and the compassion in our hearts, and we breathe out goodness, love, and light. So it's very active. We're breathing in the suffering and breathing out love, breathing out goodness. And this goodness, this innate goodness that we have is sometimes visualized or symbolized as a orb of light, a spear of light in our heart center. Pema Chodron sometimes emphasizes the feeling of spaciousness is another option. Imagine and experience your heart as open, as vast as space. Another option which I often recommend is don't imagine you're breathing in anything, but as you breathe in, imagine that, or get in touch with your ability, your confidence, your courage. So as you breathe in, you're activating, developing an awareness of your confidence and courage to be with what is there. And as you breathe out, you're breathing out spaciousness, acceptance, love, compassion. So I breathe in my capacity to be compassionate, and I breathe out goodness. And this breathing in and out is coming from the heart. Breathing into the heart and breathing out of the heart. Breathing into the heart and breathing out of the heart. And this breathing out is very active. We're seeing suffering. We're imagining that in some ways we're alleviating it. What we're breathing out is a remedy. It can be very tangible in our imagination. And the feeling of it all is very active. So let's do a short meditation. Get grounded in your breathing, in your body. And for a few moments, just feel the breathing, sense the breathing. Be aware of your body that is breathing. Be aware of the sensations as you inhale, and then as you exhale. Now bring to mind or remember a time when you were really there for another human being or another sentient being. If nothing comes to mind, you can imagine this. But remember, imagine a situation when you were really there for somebody in a comforting role. Might have been a friend in need. And don't evaluate the magnitude of the situation. Could be as simple as someone needing a listening ear and you providing that. Just remember or imagine something and see what comes to mind. Don't evaluate. Just be there with what comes up. And now consider that this goodness, this strength perhaps, is really who you are. Deep down, it expresses your deepest values. Now breathe in and out in awareness and a confidence in your innate goodness. And your capacity to be wise, compassionate, kind. Just breathe in and out this sense of confidence, compassion, strength. Now bring your area to your heart center, here in the center of your chest. And as you continue to maintain this sense of goodness and courage, compassion, do so with an awareness of this area as well. Feel your chest as it expands as you breathe in. As it relaxes as you breathe out. And as you do so, imagine that your goodness, your innate goodness, is here in this center. So you're breathing in and out with a sense of this innate goodness that resides at your heart. It's really strong goodness. And now bring to mind an awareness of something that's difficult for you right now. And as you breathe in really an awareness of this difficulty. And as you breathe out compassion for yourself, breathe in the difficulty. And breathe out spaciousness and compassion and love for yourself. There's no room for comparison in this. Don't evaluate, just breathe it in. And then breathe out love and compassion. You're not breathing it in, you're breathing in an awareness of it. And you're breathing out an awareness of your ability to respond to it with compassion and kindness and courage and love. Again, there's no comparison. Your suffering, your difficulty is simply that. Now expand your awareness to include the suffering of others around you as well. So as you breathe in an awareness of the suffering that others are experiencing right now. And as you breathe out, send compassion and love to those individuals. You can also recite phrases as you do this, such as, may you be free from suffering as you inhale. May you know happiness and peace as you exhale. And as you breathe in an awareness of the suffering of others and yourself, consider all those others right now who are experiencing similar suffering as you are experiencing. Breathe in an awareness of that, and breathe out compassion to yourself and these countless others. Now expand your awareness and include those that you might typically dismiss, not notice, devalue perhaps. Who are these people? What is their suffering right now? Right now. And breathe in an awareness of this. And again, offer back compassion and love. And this offering can be very tangible. What do people need right now? Imagine giving that to them. It could be safety, for instance. It could be physical needs, physical supports. It could be social supports. Now expand your awareness to include us all. What do we need, all of us, right now? And breathe in an awareness of what it is we need. And breathe out compassion and love. And again, this is a very active love. And maintain an open and courageous heart as you do this. You're not taking in anything, you're taking in an awareness of your capacity to be with it. And you're returning back a capacity to respond to it with concern and care. And again, you may want to put an aspiration on this. You may want to recite, "May we all be free of this suffering," as you inhale. May we all know happiness and peace as you exhale. May we all be free of suffering. May we all know happiness and peace and joy. May we all be free of suffering. May we all know happiness and peace and joy. And let this expression of compassion be active. Put your imagination to it. And now reflect on your own life and your own circumstances. And think to yourself, what can I do to embody this? What can I do to alleviate suffering and increase happiness? Be very concrete and tangible here. What can I do today in my role, in my situation, to fulfill these aspirations? What can I do? And then develop an intent, specific intent. With my actions, the context of my relationships and my community, how can I be of service? What can I do? And then let's end with a wish that as a collective we develop this intent to look out for one another and to be of service. An intent that is not that far-fetched, because it is really through connection and service that we're most fulfilled. So let's end with the wish that we look out for one another, and do what needs to be done in a caring and compassionate way. Right, peace to you and yours.